Clifton Forge businessman Michael Foster joins us today. He's a candidate for the Clifton Forge Town Council in November. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Jerry. Good morning, and thank you for having me.
We've got some pesky questions for you,
Okay, good.
Michael. I'm sure you've heard some of these before, but I think the public would like to have a little bit of background on you.
Sure. So I'll keep this brief, but I grew up in a little town very much like Clifton Forge in the middle of nowhere in Montana. And my father was a fifth generation beekeeper. And so I grew up in a household with my mom was a music teacher. She's been a choir director for 60 plus years. And then the family moved to Northern Virginia. I attended Northern Virginia Community College for a few years. Got married and then went back to school at UVA. Put myself through school with loans and the help of a special education teacher, my wife. And one of the proudest days of my life was carrying my son across the stage at UVA when I graduated. So that was a big day. It was hot. I remember that. It was hot. But then I spent, over 25 years in various finance and leadership roles across manufacturing, retail, and then finally as a consultant the last 5 years before retiring and buying a tavern. So we bought the tavern in July of 2022, and we've been very involved, volunteering, giving back to the community. And I decided to run for this office after I can't even tell you how many people, after I got to know them a little bit, says, hey, you know what? You should run for office. I think that you could have a positive impact on this town. And so that's what brings us here today.
That's a good summation, and thanks very much. And I think that people would be interested in hearing what you believe are current issues that of our deepest concern, or just things that you're most interested in that are currently going on facing the town of Clifton Forge.
Yeah, I think as a downtown business owner, we see things from a perspective of we want neighbors. We want all of the storefronts in downtown to be filled and vibrant and active and a reason for people not only in Clifton Forge to shop in Clifton Forge, but for visitors and tourists alike to come find us. So I think, and one of the basic tenets of that created my desire to run is to really make a difference in economic development. After participating for over a year, update the comprehensive plan. It's clear that economic development is the key to growth, and localities attract businesses and create jobs when they have a clear strategy to grow. And it's much more difficult when so many downtown storefronts are vacant. And my contention has always been that there has to be something that we can do. And I've talked to a lot of people about it, and they continue to say, well, we're doing what we can. But in fact, their laws have been in the Virginia Code for years. It's actually Title 15.2 in Chapter 11, Section 27. And they could have been adopted by Clifton Forge years ago, but it hasn't been. So that's my biggest thing that I really am committed to doing. And I think we also need to create more after school and summer programs for our school age youth. Not having a school in town anymore makes it difficult. Certainly makes it challenging. And I want to work to develop programs so fewer kids are just roaming the streets. I mean, we see it a lot at the tavern and behind the tavern and in our downtown neighborhoods. And as the son and husband of teachers, I know the importance of this issue, and we'll partner with the YMCA, local teachers, Mountain Gateway Community College. I met with John Renoni a couple of weeks ago and said, what can the town do better to engage with you, and volunteer groups across the spectrum, to develop new programs. We've got the armory, and I think that there's more that we can do for our youth.
Well, do you have a vision for Clifton Forge's future? I mean, on the one hand, and it's perfectly reasonable when you have a more vibrant downtown, you have more storefronts occupied, and obviously absentee landlordism is sometimes just doesn't work. If there's not a strong incentive, or even stronger incentive using the law to get these storefronts moving, then that makes it difficult on everybody, not just
It does.
you
Yeah.
wonder, what are these people thinking? Because why do you have an asset that's totally unproductive? But with respect to the future, do you have a vision, or do you think you can share some ideas that you would like to promote other than strictly, promotion of downtown businesses?
Yeah, I mean, but I think it starts there.
Okay.
If elected, I will push day one to adopt the vacant building registry. I have been in discussions. I know that town council is beginning to look at it. There's been some hesitancy, and I don't know all of the reasons that it hasn't previously been adopted. But I think we have to look more broadly than that. I think that the civil penalties that exist under Virginia law that can be applied are actually a little more meaningful than my initial understanding of them. The civil penalties in a historic area, I think, are up to $400. So if you own multiple properties in downtown Clifton Forge, it might actually hurt a little bit. But I think that there's more that we can do. And I would love to partner with Delegate Head and Senator Austin to sponsor legislation to actually add some more teeth to the civil penalties that exist, and potentially more options of how we can make that happen in partnership with U.S. Senator Kane and Warner's offices, who I have been in contact with about this issue, to continue to look for and fight for federal grant funding. I think that development of upstairs housing, for example, where I'm sitting now in my office at the Tavern, would do a lot to continue to grow the downtown and create incentives for people to get their storefronts back up and running. The building across the street from us, the Bannon Irish Inn, I hear stories that they had the most amazing scones back in the day, and I would love nothing more than to have that property vibrant and productive again. And there's just so many historic buildings in the downtown that could be much better utilized. And we always focus on the budget of Clifton Forge and how restrictive it is, and how little we can do. We have to get funding for the pipeline replacement. But if we grow the tax base with businesses downtown, and you have more tax dollars coming in, and you're attracting new businesses, that will help. But I think we have to have leadership at the town council with a clear view of the future, rather than just more of the same. I really think that this town has a very rich history, and certainly the train history is part of it. That's why we had the mural painted in the brewery of Chessie, kind of coming through the wall through the barrels of beer, is to pay tribute to the history. And yet I think that we can revere that history while we move forward. So that's really where my focus is.
Well, it sounds, pretty innovative, and also lots of activity. And, people, having lived here nearly 50 years now, fresh ideas are, very welcome. And it oddly enough, we go down the streets, or we're in a neighborhood, we see Foster signs. So I'd say you're definitely a working candidate.
Yeah. And I absolutely plan to knock on as many doors as I can. I've had a number of people in different neighborhoods say, "Look, I'd love to take you around to my neighbors and give them an opportunity to ask the questions that they have." I'm in a good position here at the Tavern because I talk to people every single night, and I talk to people who live here, and I talk to people who live around here, and everyone has their opinion, and everyone has their view. But I think it's the opportunity to listen to them that I've taken advantage of, and really taken to heart, the true belief that that this town can be great, and it will be great again one day. And we moved here with that certainly in our hearts, that we felt the energy when we first started looking at buying the tavern. You could feel the neighborhoods, and you could feel the move toward the future. And there just seems to be, a small part of the population that doesn't want that. But I think that the vast majority of people really do want to lean into the future. With the trails that we're doing, and David Elwood's work with the Trails Committee, and all of the things that are going on that are positive here. But I think that was what partly drew us to Clifton Forge, and also why we think why we should be here, and why we are so invested in the community, and the people of Clifton Forge and all of Allegheny Highlands, frankly.
Just like any good interviewee, I had these set of questions. And of course, the last one is, why should people elect you? But I think you've already answered that. But to make it more specific, do you have like a summation of, a set of bullet points that you would like to make sure are perfectly clear to the public?
I think that I care about this community. I didn't grow up here, but I have been highly involved for the 2+ years that I've been here. I do have fresh ideas and thoughts on the future. I bring a long history of finance background, as well as leadership and management. And I'm a people person. When I told people initially, some of my close friends that I've known for 20, 25 years, their initial response when I told them that I was going to retire and bought a tavern was, "Of course you are."
You're a glutton for punishment. It sounds like.
Yeah, exactly.
Gee, I want to work 70 or 80 hours for. And I've already mentioned this to you before, but yeah, I want to retire so I can work.
Yeah, who retires to work 7 days a week and have in a 100-year-old building that something's always breaking? But it's the spirit of the people here, and I think that the WDBJ program that aired last week really captured the spirit of what the tavern is, and the tavern reflects the love that both my wife and I, and frankly our staff, have for this town and our commitment to this town. So that's kind of the message that I'd love people to take away.
Well, we thank you very much for taking some time with us. I didn't know you had any time, having seen that kind of crazy schedule of yours.
Yeah.
But we do thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us again, and wish you the best luck in the campaign.
Thank you, Jerry. I very much appreciate it, and I would appreciate everyone's vote.
Bye now.
Bye.